Good day, everyone, and welcome to our Smart Webinar series and to today's webinar, Understanding Sales and Marketing Transparency in Senior Living. So right now, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our guest today, Tim Donnelly. Tim founded SeniorVu in 1999 with the vision to help companies streamline business processes using enhanced forms of communication. His vision still stands strong many years later, with the clarity of SeniorVu's focus directed at marketing automation and database marketing for B2C, high cost of acquisition industries, for example, consumer banking, mortgage lending, and senior living. Tim launched SeniorVu in late 2016, which now is one of the fastest growing companies in the industry. Tim is a proud graduate of the University of Tulsa, and he lives in Kansas City with his wife, Judy, and they have 3 kids. So welcome, Tim.
Thank you so much, Andrea. And a little trivia there for those, if you know the mascot for the University of Tulsa. Don't tell me why, but the Golden Hurricane. Yes, proud Golden Hurricane. My daughter is attending school there, and I went 4 years to the University of Tulsa. I never knew why they called our mascot the Golden Hurricane. I had to look it up on Wikipedia, but I could recite the story backwards and forwards now because my daughter has drilled me on it. Anyway, thank you so much, Andrea. Give you a little background on SeniorVu and SeniorVu. SeniorVu started back in 1999, as Andrea said. We became a vertical marketing platform, specifically for the mortgage banking industry. And as Andrea said, we commercialized a new vertical, senior living, in late 2016, but the actual concept came up in 2015 when I attended the Alpha conference down in Tampa. And so we feel very privileged and honored to be serving such a wonderful industry in that in senior living. Today we serve over 700 client communities, and we are a purpose-driven organization that's committed to driving client value through technology innovations, transparent results, and exceptional service, and it's all for the greater good. So, to give you some framework on who we are in the senior living space, is we know lead generation fairly well just because of our mortgage lending background with the likes of LendingTree, Zillow, Bankrate. And we came up with this idea to use database marketing to help predict who's going to raise their hand next. And so we've done a real good job of trying to figure out how to leverage big data and apply machine learning algorithms using our marketing automation platform that we've had in existence for many, many years, and that ultimately drives to census optimization. And the end result is creating a repeatable, predictable, and sustainable sales model, resulting in higher conversion rates for our clients. And so that's some framework. So that's where we're coming from when we share our transparency story. And so our goal for the takeaways is to help you understand our lessons and to hopefully take those and learn from them, act on them. We're also going to talk a little bit about the assessment of the industry's challenges. And there's no question there's opportunities for improvement, and we're going to focus on some of the critical ones. And obviously, we'll have a Q&A session at the very end. So why is sales and marketing transparency so critical? Why are we having a webinar on it? Well, we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about how the industry can mature and how it can provide a better experience for the consumer from a sales and marketing perspective. And then we'll talk about the specifics. We'll get very granular. So why is this such a big deal? Well, because this industry in general is one of the hottest topics out there, from Wall Street to the private equity firms to the REITs. Boy, it's a frenzy, and it's because of the growth of the baby boomers. But there's some critically important areas to focus on relative to pain, and that deals with the occupancy rate, because we all know that the more development that goes on, the more competition that comes in, puts stress on those occupancy rates. And there is a break-even point that the communities or operators don't hit, boy, you know, some review sessions are going to happen, and it's going to be a tough conversation. And holistically, it's a big deal. But the real problem, and especially coming out of the flu season, is the turnover rate within the resident base. And that's a big problem in that sales teams are working their behinds off trying to, you know, replace the move-outs. And there's a huge dependency on third-party referral sources. And so many of the operators that we deal with want to create exclusive leads. They want to generate their own leads. They want to do things where they have more control, and that's what we're a part of. We want to be a part of that mission, vision, strategy of allowing operators in the industry to gain control, to not be so dependent on some of those elements out there that are kind of dark. So let's talk specific. Let's start at the very beginning. You know, a family has a need. How important is it to provide a great experience for that family that's going to start searching, that's going to start shopping? So I'll tell you my story. I'm the youngest of 6, wonderful family, loving mother and father. My dad had Alzheimer's, and he had it for a long time and stayed in the house. My mom was a caregiver. But we as a family put off that conundrum of someday we're going to have to do something. Well, that day came, and an event happened. My mom broke down in tears, called my oldest brother, and said, "You got to come over here." Well, we had 48 hours to figure it out. And so being the youngest of 6, I was the guy that had to do a lot of that research. I did the Google thing. I was making phone calls. And I can tell you firsthand the stress on me at that very moment. It was not a great experience, especially with the interactions or lack of interactions that I had. So yes, we learned from that experience. And so my mom said, you know, "I'm staying in my house and you're going to have to take me out feet first." And so we did our best. You know, my brother did a good job getting long-term care for my mom right after my dad's event. And so it was a good thing because we brought in-home care because of her COPD. But those last months, we had to start the process over. We started exploring what happens what if we have to move her in somewhere? And again, the same thing occurred. It was not a great experience from the consumer's perspective. So I can empathize what the industry is going through. And if you think about that first step, and most consumers start their process online with Google. And so this is an illustration of that first impression. And so if somebody engages, in this case, we'll just pick one of the aggregators that's out there. And so it's a nice, easy path into submitting your information. It's a nice, easy path. And it feels harmless as a consumer. But when you get into a situation where, and this is an example of reading the fine print and all the different third-party providers that may be calling the family because you have to give written consent because of TCPA laws. You know, it's kind of, and this is right on the website of that aggregator, but, you know, there's just a couple, several, lot. Hang on, we're almost at the end, promise. And I just did this the other day. They might have added a few or taken off a few. And we're almost right there. One of those will be gone, maybe, in addition to that aggregator. So my question is that a good experience for the family to start getting bombarded because the aggregator is spraying and praying that that family might move in? And the answer is probably no. So first question that we have, the first poll question is, how many of you, and not everybody on this call I'm sure is an operator, but how many of you use third-party referral sources? And I am going to have a follow-up poll question from this. So we'll let Andrea, she's doing the poll right now, survey, algorithms are being performed.
Okay, we're almost at the 100% mark, so we're gonna close down the polls shortly.
Great.
Okay. And here we go. So for the poll, how many current third-party referral sources do you work with? 44% said 3 to 5, with 1 to 2 coming in second place at 39%. Only 6% said 0, and 11% said more than 10.
Wow. That's some good data. I wonder if that surprises anybody. Don't know. We'll find out. So if we can, Andrea, if we can do that second poll, if we can do that, because this is like a follow-up question.
Okay, we launch the second poll. What is your percentage of shared leads versus exclusive leads? Don't give up your data.
Here's a trivia question for you. We conceptualized SeniorVu in Kansas City in 2015. What other big event happened in 2015 in Kansas City? The Royals won the World Series.
Ah, that's good stuff.
It only took 30 years for us to go back to the big dance.
Okay, I think we got everyone voted, Tim. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share the results. Okay, so the percentage of shared leads versus exclusive leads tied for 25% are two categories. The first one, less than 10%, and then the third choice, 26 to 50%. 31% of the respondents said that their percentage of shared leads versus exclusive leads is somewhere between 10 to 25%. And 19% said it's more than 50%.
Great. That plays right into the rest of the presentation. That's perfect. That's perfect because we're going to get into this thing called maturation. And so if you and really when a market reaches like a very mature level, it's because of three things. And when all three are present, it's hyper mature. And so the ingredients for maturation is the industry becomes very competitive. I've got a check mark next to that. I believe that senior living is competitive, very competitive. Another one is where customers become incredibly smart. And so there's all kinds of examples about that, whether you're shopping for hotels or if you're buying something on Amazon and you're looking at the reviews, you become very smart. And so that whole ecosystem matures. And then the last one is where providers become really smart about their strengths and weaknesses. And when you have all three of those present, it's incredible. So I'll give you some examples of how some other industries, in a way, a little trick on how to figure out if it's a mature, competitive industry. So if you just did like a search on Google for apartments, anytime you see the results having a lot of ads, like ad placements, paid placements, and if they're aggregators, such as like apartments.com or Apartment Guide. Here's another one, hotels, I mentioned earlier. Anytime you see like bookings.com, hotels.com, Trivago, that is a hyper competitive industry. And it's all, relative to the consumer starting their shopping experience. And then used cars, mortgage rates, that's really competitive. This is the ultimate when Google takes over the results and they say, you know what, we're not going to have any aggregators playing in the space, we're just going to take it over. So that's an example of how you figure out if a industry has matured with respect to marketing to consumers. And so one of the indicators, price indicators, that kind of accentuates the maturity level is, let's say, cost per click. And in senior living, you can see that it's kind of it's not a huge spiked trend. Well, I went back on one of the industries that I know of, and I looked back to 2005 to just a couple of years ago, and that's what's happened. That's, whoa, how could that happen? Well, you got to, Google and you search for things like their top keywords or most expensive keywords. And again, you look at these cost per click in these hyper-aggressive markets, $50 a click, $44 a click, $47 a click. Holy smokes. And so think of this, what happens in the senior living industry when that spikes, when the industry gets really smart about certain things, or when aggregators come in and just start bidding up the words because operators have kind of figured some things out. It just drives that price up. Think of it similar to like crude oil. Crude oil's $36, $40 a barrel. What happens when it goes to $100? When they have that on the news, consumers are like, whatever. But it affects them at the gas station a couple of weeks later, if not a couple of days later. So my question for the industry, what happens when this gets really competitive? And I'll talk about that here in a second, and I'll try and visualize that pain that's coming. But you might say to yourself, now wait a second, cost per click is really a very small part of our overall budget or overall focus because we have other lead sources. Okay, great, cool. Friends and family, phenomenal quality on those, high conversion rates. But the fact of the matter is, the lead volume, it's not big. Walk-ins, great. There's pretty good close rates on those, but those happen few and far between. Professional referrals, those are typically really good. And since we have feet on the street, we get some pretty good referral volume. Organic or exclusive, meaning that you're doing it on your own or you're relying on your agency to do it on your behalf. It's okay. It's all right. Wish we could figure out more of that because the close rate's okay, but we'll get smart on it. And then there's the third-party referrals. And so you can have a lot of volume, but it's hard to close because it's competitive. And sometimes the consumer or that lead is just shopping, kicking the tires. And so in the ideal world, you'd want that to go there. You'd want that to go there. You'd want definitely. And then this one, definitely on that side. And so that's the ideal situation. Everybody wants that, but it's like, how do you get there? So we're going to be very transparent about some of our conversion rates because we're helping, as I mentioned, hundreds and hundreds of communities deal with an omni-channel approach, whether it's direct mail, email, paid search. And so we thought it'd be prudent for us to actually open the kimono. We're going to share our results. So when you look at it, and this is for a certain period of time with a certain subsector of our client base. And so for that month, we generated 1,274 form fills. Those are people that raised their hand through our campaigns. And of those, 131 were qualified and moved to the next level, which was a scheduled tour. And then we've got, that all-important showing up for the tour. That's not a bad result, 63%. I can tell you back in our early days, it was like 27%. It's like, what? It's because the operators that we were dealing with out of the gate were so kind to give us their challenged communities. And so we'd schedule a tour, but for some reason the family didn't show up because they went online and searched the reviews or looked at Better Business Bureau. And anyway, so we had some challenges. Now we're a little smarter on how we do that. And then ultimately we get that deposit and the move in. So that's what we're looking at as far as our results. And the crazy thing is, and because we're paying for all of that top of the funnel activity, we're paying for 100% of that. And 90% of what's coming in is not ready. It's DQ'd. And that's painful. From an entrepreneur's perspective, I'm like, wow, we got a lot of skin in the game. So we get the question all the time, how come 90% is DQ'd? What are the reasons, Tim? And so here they are. We just pulled this straight out of our Tableau reporting. It's a little technology that we use to make really cool dashboard widgets like this. So you can see there's a big chunk is other, and I'll talk about that here in a second, but financial, they're not qualified. It's maybe because of the location or so the real question is, what about that 41.8%? Well, when you generate leads that raise their hand, and you've got a team of people, and actually our team that makes the outbound phone calls on a form fill is called FAM team, our FAM team, Family Advocate Management Team. They are phenomenal. Half of them are nurses that came in and are passionately committed to helping those families kind of walk through that journey. Well, when they're dealing with this other thing, it's because the lead came in saying, hey, I'm looking for employment. Yeah, we'll transfer you over. Or, hey, do you provide hospice services? No, we don't do that. And so there's a variety of reasons why it's a DQ'd lead. And it's frustrating, and I can only imagine those communities, those operators that are trying to do this on their own, and they're getting a lot of noise. They're getting a lot of, DQ'd activity that's coming in, and their sales team or marketing team has to deal with it. And so we'll talk about ways to deal with that, but gosh. So let's look at the bottom of the funnel. So when we deliver a lead, our lead is a scheduled tour, and which is nice because our client communities, their sales teams are really, they're more focused on doing things that are productive versus dealing with the noise. So when we deliver a lead, it closes on average about 11, 12% of the time. And so we feel that's providing value to the industry and specifically our clients. So I'm going to ask you a question, third poll. So when you get an internet inquiry, so from either a third party or your own website, what percentage of those are truly qualified, that are move-in ready?
Okay, Tim, we've got folks starting to vote. So we'll just give it a few seconds.
Outstanding. And by the way, everybody, everything's up to date in Kansas City. And if you want, Andre, I can sing that song. Everything's up to date in Kansas City.
No, that's great. Thank you, Tim. Maybe after. All right. We've got 100% here, so we're going to go ahead and close the poll. And I will share the results. So an internet inquiry, what percentage are truly qualified? At the top score of 39% is 5 to 10%, which sounds just about on average. Next is 11 to 20%, and that was voted on by 22% of the attendees. And then less than 5% is 17%. And then both 21 to 30 and higher than 30 came in at 11%.
Interesting. That validates what we just talked about.
Exactly.
Love polls. You know what? I love them so much. Let's go ahead and do another one.
Okay.
All right, I'm going right to
it.
What's better?
Go for it, Tim.
What's better? An exclusive lead that's self-generated or through your agency. It's exclusive, or that wonderful shared lead. Yes, I just threw a softball. A little softball pitch.
Okay, we're almost there.
We're getting to the good stuff, by the way, Andrea. There's some secret sauce coming that I would assume some screenshots are going to be made of it.
Well, the data you're presenting, Tim, is just, very important to look at in terms of where you put your dollars or your marketing dollars, and to have that kind of concrete data helps you make better decisions. All right,
Amen.
I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share the results. So, not surprising, 82% said exclusive leads have higher conversion rates, with 18% say no, exclusive leads do not have a higher conversion.
There you go. There's a typo in there. I don't know how that happened. Yes, that probably came from me. So let's talk about the secret sauce. So if you're dealing with bringing in these leads from a variety of sources, and actually what I'm sharing with you was built by some different industries out there. And actually, we've seen this from other providers. We're not the only ones that have a nice little workflow diagram like this. There's numerous companies out there that can help you produce this. And this is confidential to us, but we are somewhat of a transparent company, as seen right here today. The purpose of this is to illustrate what we talked about before. So we've got one of those critical price points out there through Google, Bing, Facebook, and it's a cost per click. It's some sort of advertising cost or marketing cost. And when you spend money on that, it really doesn't guarantee anything. And studies show that when you spend so much, you're going to get something in return. It's about $60 to $80 for a form fill. That's for somebody to actually complete a form, raise their hand, do something. And you got to manage that, right? You got to manage those leads that come in. And it's important, and we're going to talk about the important things when that happens that you should focus on. And we're going to give you a nice little giveaway at the end. And so if you look at the cost to get somebody to show up at your community or to have that face-to-face meeting, it's about $1,000. In the perfect world, when you get, 2.5 of those families, 2 to 3 of those families that show up at your community, do the tour, you hope to get one of them. And when that happens, you're going to be looking at about a $2,500 expenditure. And that's perfect world. Not every community in the United States is going to realize that. And there's some that are better than others. But that's what I think the industry needs to strive towards. And my question, as this industry matures, and you start to see a price point on that cost per click go from $4 to maybe $40, are you going to be ready to pay 10x this? The answer is no. There's no way. And so how are you going to deal with that? Well, the mortgage industry, the hotel industry, and numerous other very competitive, mature industries have taken this type of workflow diagram, these process points, these system elements, and they have matured them. They have refined them. They have focused on them to the point where they can deal with pressure points from advertising mediums or new ways to market. And if you don't have this in place today, I strongly encourage you to go do it. So this is very important, and we've seen this in other markets. And I tell you what, a lot of focus is spent on it. So the fifth poll question. So what's stopping you from generating more exclusive leads? What is it? Because if you're going to generate more leads, or even have a strong mix between exclusive and shared, what's stopping you from really putting the pedal to the metal on exclusive? Because everybody wants exclusive, as the last poll said. So what's stopping you from it? And it looks like there should be more than one response here on my screen. Andrea, it says budget, lack of resources, poor results, haven't tried it, or we have it figured out. Hopefully everybody sees that on their screens.
Yep, that's on the attendee poll.
Okay, great.
And we've not surprising, but some interesting answers coming in. So I'm going to give it a few more seconds. We'll go ahead and close the poll. Okay, and share the results. Well, not surprising. The number one item for stopping from generating exclusive leads is budget at 63%. Lack of resources, 13%. Poor results is 6%. And then there's some lucky folks out there. 19% of our attendees have it figured out.
The old 80-20 rule.
Yep.
The smart one. Now, we applaud them, and there's no question that we've seen it. There's some players out there that have it figured out, and kudos to them. So let's give you some proof points here. We're just almost at the very end, and so I'm going to close up with some things. There's a variety of aspects that really point to better conversion rates. And on this particular webinar, we're focused on one of them, and it's the speed to lead. And I think numerous other providers for the industry have talked about this. We've seen this in other industries as well. The speed to lead is really important. And in this stat, this chart is from our inception. So we went back in our database and we looked at all the move-ins that have occurred, and we looked at some sort of time frame, calling them back just because you got after hours stuff, and if you call them back within 90 minutes, which seems like a really long time, but when you average that in with weekend stuff, if you can do that, it's amazing how much better your conversion rate's going to be. So I'm going to close with this. The keys to better transparency, which we believe transparency, again, is one of those things where can you visualize everything? Can you comprehend all the different elements that are part of the equation? So if you can define your process points, the workflow diagram, for example, if you can implement systems or at least checkpoints to ensure integrity, if you can measure what you're doing, what you're focused on, and really quantify the results or the trending, and if you can take all of that and optimize your strategy and tactics based on the results, you've got a very transparent ecosystem. You've got a transparent operation. And we believe that those are really important ingredients, foundational elements to build, a stronger, more sustainable operating model. And so we're going to do more of these webinars. This first one of 2018 for us, we're going to give you a complimentary ebook that talks about speed to lead, which speed to lead, there's a proof point, 86% of the time when you call quickly, you got a great chance of closing. The next one is going to be focused on lead nurturing, all the things that you can do. Once you get that lead in the door, all the things that you need to do to optimize that experience for that consumer. And so feel free to go out to our website, download the complimentary ebook. You'll learn a lot. The team has done a fantastic job putting that together. I'm very proud of them. And at this time, Andrea, I'll open it up to questions.
Terrific. Also, to let all the attendees know, within about 24 hours, all those who registered will get a recorded copy of the webinar, a transcription of the webinar, the deck presentation, and also a copy of the SeniorVu ebook as well. So we have a couple of questions that came in. One of them is, how does SeniorVu's digital marketing efforts overlap with other marketing efforts?
Okay. Good question. Very good question. In short, no, it doesn't overlap. We build them in a way to be complementary. So none of our landing pages are indexed, which means that they'll never appear on an organic search. And so as a benefit from additional shelf space for exclusive leads on the behalf of the community, since they're competing directly with the aggregators' brands, generating shared leads, we're able to really optimize the placement and conversion rates, because the best thing, a client told me this the other day, you know, when I pay you $2,500 to get a move in, you know, I'm investing in my brand. And so when I pay $3,000 or $4,000 to a third-party referral source, that's going to invest in their brand, to build their brand so it's bigger and bigger and it dwarfs, you know, mine. So we don't compete or overlap on your marketing efforts. We do it in sync with your strategy.
And so you really do then market on behalf of the community.
Yes, it is. You won't see SeniorVu's brand out there trying to bring you know, leads under what we're doing. SeniorVu, you won't see SeniorVu out there. And so everything's done under the client's brand. Every campaign is done under their brand.
Great. Another question that just came in, how much research and development goes into SeniorVu? Wow,
so from an entrepreneur's perspective, it's been millions. So we've heavily invested into the technology, into the platform, into the processes, into the team, into the experience that we're providing, not only, you know, the families, but the clients that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So that's holistically. What's the investment when we engage with a particular client? There is no, you know, implementation costs. We do, in some cases, it's negotiated up front, whether it's going to be a prepayment of services or if it's a subscription model. And for anybody interested, they can contact our sales team. But we make it as painless as possible to invest in this new innovative technology and ways of doing business.
Terrific. We actually have a really great question that ties into one of the poll questions. When you did with the poll is what's keeping you from looking at these exclusive leads, and budget was about 63%. The question is, where would you focus your marketing budget with a limited budget?
Mm-hmm. Well, so in that case, and we do business with some smaller operators that have thin staffs. So it's either you build it internally or you partner externally. And so again, knowing that the Holy Grail is exclusive leads, you know, the way to do it is partner with external companies to help you build this. So eventually you can take control if you wanted to expand your staff to actually handle this internally. Our vision long term is to put all the tools in place and to help clients manage them short term, but long term actually turn those tools over to the community so that they can move their own levers, they can build their own workflow rules and strategies. And we saw that in other industries. That's what happened in mortgage. That's what's happened in the hotel. You know, you sign up and you adopt a technology platform. You may not know how to configure it or manage it. Eventually you will. And if you're dealing with a good provider, they'll turn the keys over to you. And that's what we want to do. We want to give all the control back to the communities if they can handle it. And we all know that turnover within the communities and within, you know, the operator model, there is turnover, and specifically at the sales and marketing level. And some of the operators, you know, have to manage that appropriately. And so what our goal is, if we do turn the keys over and that operator comes back and says, hey, I need some transitional help, we'll step right in. And that's part of our model, is to do that. And then we'll train the trainer, step right back out.
Mm-hmm. I have a follow-up on the R&D question. More specifically, they were wondering what goes into, has the web changes and has, you know, certain different things. What goes into changing SeniorVu's tactics? So I'm guessing you guys are not a static solution.
That's probably a good way to look at it. That, you know, as we evolved in the other industry that we serve, new technologies or innovations come along. Either we have a decision to either adopt them and embrace them, or probably get crushed by them. So we're a very nimble company that, as new technologies, new innovations come along, we're going to adopt them. We're going to build them into our product roadmap, and we're going to leverage them the best that we can. A good example is using SMS text messaging within the cadence of lead nurturing. And so that's something that is on our product roadmap. We're building that in right now so that if a consumer raises their hand, they want to interact via SMS text, that's part of the type of messaging that our platform can send. Mm-hmm. Social media is another one. Retargeting is another one. Those are all, you know, elements of the marketing tech or MarTech sphere of options. And so we embrace all of them. Some work better than others. Every industry is different. But, you know, we're learning as we go. Our clients are great partners. They give us feedback. And at the end, we're doing what's right for the greater good.
Terrific. We have two last questions, and I love the people that just want to get right down to it. So I'll give you the two questions together. So the first thing is, what kind of results are your client community seeing? And the second is, how many move-ins can we expect? I love that.
Yes. Well, that's right down to it. So well, I'll answer the latter first. You know, we're as we learned from day one, you know, every community is different. Every market is different. And it really depends on a variety of factors. We target one scheduled tour per month, and that's I can tell you that some of the bigger brands that it's easier for us to market to because the brands are recognizable. They see much more than a scheduled tour a month per community. And so if you go back to those metrics of, you know, how many scheduled tours do you need to get a move in, again, that varies. We know that one operator out there has a 2x better conversion rate than others. Why is that? Well, there's speculation on their brand or their process points or their ability to negotiate price, whatever it is. And so we really target one scheduled tour per month per community. And again, that's it just varies. And that first question, if we could go back to that first one, because I am 51, Andrea. The reason why we got into senior living is because I might have issues. What was that first question?
Hold on one second. I'm just gonna scroll down and grab it.
I'm humble. I'm a very humble guy. Transparent. Can't remember everything.
Basically, what kind of results are you seeing with your client communities?
Yeah, and again, that goes to the answer I just gave. It varies based on the communities. I can tell you in the early days, we were, again, humbled by the efforts that we had to put forth for, you know, some of those communities that the early operators gave us. It's kind of tough, but the results again go back to is it urban versus rural? Is it a competitive market versus not? And some of our clients want us to bump up the volume, so they sign up for a subscription model that allows us to front load some of the costs each month to make sure that lead volume is at the highest it can be. So it really depends. I would say that if anybody interested wanted to talk to some of our team members, they could do a lookup on the communities and give them a very good understanding or a snapshot of what we see possible. And we do that with a lot of prospective clients that will actually do an assessment up front.
That's terrific. That's all the time we have today. Tim, I want to thank you so much for your very insightful webinar. Lots of terrific information, and we will be getting out a copy of the presentation as well as a recording out to everybody. So hope everyone has a good day, and Tim, thank you again so much.
You're welcome. Take care.